We've got a letter from one of our listeners who wants to know about medical marijuana use. Basically, when you go for a job, sometimes they will test you for drugs.
Yeah.
And if you come up with marijuana, but you do have a prescription for it, and it's for a serious medical issue, can they deny you employment?
Okay, so I think there are a few things you got to keep in mind. First and foremost, and you have to kind of interplay this in with the whole scheme of things, is New York is an at-will employment state. So most employers are allowed to hire, fire for whatever reason. Number two that you got to keep in mind, and what we don't know, is what kind of job this is that this person is interested in. Because as we pointed out when Robin was discussing this, there are certain jobs that are exempt from any laws that protect people who do use medical marijuana, such as driving jobs, medical jobs where you're around children, heavy equipment, all that stuff. They are exempted from it. And even if de Blasio in New York City and gets this law enacted where people are no longer allowed to test at all, even those jobs will be exempted from it. And we don't know what kind of job we have here. Which brings me to the main point is, the trend that we think in this area is, or the protection will come from people who can claim that they should be allowed to work and stay employed and get jobs under the American with Disabilities Act. If you have a medical marijuana certification, most of the legal experts are saying, well, then you can make your argument that you can't discriminate against me because I'm an American with a disability, and Title VII protects people if you're working for an employer that has 15 or more employees. Just like other forms of discrimination, basically. But the caution is it has not been tested yet because this is so new. So we can't point to a bunch of cases where people successfully made a claim under the ADA and were hired or kept their jobs or what have you.
Now, here's something that I thought, tell me if I'm wrong with this, couldn't it be viewed as a HIPAA violation? Because, now you're investigating, like you can't ask or try to find out if somebody's on chemotherapy drugs. But you can't find out if somebody's on, other prescribed drugs. But
think about this. If you voluntarily waive those rights, just like you can voluntarily waive your rights. In other words, if it's a condition of employment and you have to get drug tested.
But can it be a condition of employment is what I'm asking. Like, you can't go to a job interview and say, oh, by the way, are you suffering from cancer? They can't ask that. Or are you pregnant? You can't ask that. No, you're not allowed to ask that. But I think when it comes to waiving your right to disclose whether or not there are drugs that the employer doesn't want in your system, but again, you have to remember that I think the reason why this is to the fore is not just because we're deciding that marijuana may not be illegal eventually statewide. It's because it does impair your ability to do certain jobs.
See, and the weird thing is you can say, okay, you can compare it to alcohol in that you can say, okay, well, definitely you don't want a bus driver drinking or whatever.
Right.
However, alcohol is never prescribed medically, or at least not on the, officially. But so it's hard to say. Alcohol is purely recreational, where marijuana, maybe somebody can't actually function without it, like people who have seizures, or it's supposed to be very helpful for that. But I guess if you probably are prone to seizures, you probably wouldn't be a driver anyway. But I'm just saying that's the difference. It's kind of to me, it's just a really weird gray area there. That
it is a gray area, but it doesn't make a difference in terms of like even lawfully prescribed painkillers by your doctor can impair your ability to do certain things and can become a crime.
And that's what I'm saying. But do employers, as a rule, test people for opioids, which can definitely impair you?